Hi, everybody. Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fragrant Bunker. Today, we're going to continue our series on how to purchase perfumes. Tips and tricks of the trade, if you may. Or let's just say somebody who has been loving and wearing perfumes all their life. As someone who has been wearing perfumes and loving them all their life, I'm kind of sharing with you how I go about purchasing fragrances. Now, I started this series 3 or 4 videos ago, so there's quite a few of them out by now. So go check out that series of videos. If you're interested in all the details, like technical stuff, like how to buy perfumes, I have a whole kind of recipe of how to go about purchasing them if you want to be more technical. But then there's also like another video dedicated to fighting FOMO, when the fear of missing out kicks in. Like, how can we kind of combat that? How can we purchase perfumes more reasonably, sensibly? They are also quite expensive. Some perfumes are very expensive, others a little bit less, but there's a lot to consider, okay, when you're going to buy a perfume. And especially if you love perfume so much and you buy them often and you want to kind of, every time there's a new release, you want to try it out and you want to buy again and again and again. Or you watch a lot of videos from a lot of perfume content creators. I am one of those perfume content creators. And then, a lot of perfume content creators also get the products for free. So, and a lot of them also go into debt buying a ton of perfumes, and they showcase almost on the daily, really, but on the weekly, new fragrances, and then they rave about them. They criticize others, but it's something that contributes to this overall FOMO for fragrances, and then we end up spending a lot of money. So anyway, I started this series in order to try to minimize that urge that we have to purchase constantly over and over again, more and more and more and more and more perfumes, without really ever having the time to enjoy what we already have. So there's a few videos out there on my channel that kind of help you, guide you through the toning it down, slowing down, enjoying what we already have. So today's episode is going to be dedicated to one particular reason why I buy perfumes, or something that can help you understand more who you are through a perfume. And by doing so, you might just end up focusing on that genre of perfumes alone, or for a certain period of time, rather than just sporadically buying from all different categories of perfumes all the time just because you saw your favorite content creator talk about some perfume, and then you just go and buy it on a whim, almost like blindly. A lot of the cases it is blindly, because a lot of these perfumes, especially in the niche category, are not available in every city, in every village. There are no shops to sell them in many cases. So also, sometimes in an entire country, there's not going to be a certain brand available. So you have to kind of blindly purchase them. You can buy a sample. Samples are also not cheap, because you might trick yourself in thinking, oh, yeah, okay, I'm going to buy a sample of this one, so it's not going to be that expensive. You're still going to end up paying, like, depending on who's selling it to you, 20, 30, 40 bucks per sample. And then a sample today, a sample tomorrow. It all adds up. And then, not the best, in my opinion. So, what I've noticed in my life is that, and this is what this episode is about, purchasing more sensibly perfumes and focusing on what we really love and what really is a part of us, rather than letting others tell us, try this, do that, wear this, like that. Believe it or not, I have come to the conclusion that it is our family. It comes from our parents and grandparents. How? Well, let's get to it. First, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Push the join button next to the subscription button. Become a member today. Gain access to extra perks. You can also join me on Patreon. Superdacob, all spelled together, there as well, for extra perks. Thank you to all the new subscribers and to all the members and the patrons. Wonderful community. Thank you guys so much. Thumb up this video. What do I mean by family? Well, first of all, everything I say in this video is for entertainment purposes only, not rooted in truths or facts. Everything's alleged and just my opinion. And it is my opinion that we take a sense of smell and desire towards certain fragrances from what our parents and grandparents wore. This is coincidentally one of the reasons why I really don't like when people, in order to pejoratively speak of a fragrance, they call it, oh, this is such a grandma perfume. This is such a grandpa perfume. It's very ageist, very ugly. Don't do it, people. It's not cool. But also don't do it because your sense of smell and your preference in the olfactory wheel, believe it or not, stems from your heritage, from your grandparents and parents. And if you're lucky enough and you had your great grandparents also alive, then it stems also from them. And there are many reasons why this happens, in my opinion. One is because you grew up and as a child, you start experiencing the world for the very first time ever. And just one single day seems to be a lifetime, right? And the older we get, the shorter time feels because we experience less newer things. And the less newer things we experience, we have to process them less. So we just kind of, everything becomes routine, in other words. So time just appears to be flying by so quickly. It's because there's no new stimuli coming in, right? But when we're very little, we are very susceptible. We are like sponges, receptors. We are very susceptible to all sorts of new stimulations, tastes, smells, tactile experiences, visual experiences, of course, pain, pleasure, all these things you already experience when you are very, very, very little. And one of the first things that you experience is the smell of your mother. That's how you bond. You bond through the sound of your mother, the smell, the warmth of the skin, the heartbeat, but it's a smell. And it is first and foremost subconscious. It is on a hormonal level. It triggers you. That bonding then shortly thereafter, as you're taken home from the hospital after birth, depending if you're born at home or in hospital or whatever, and then you come to your crib, wherever you're supposed to be placed as a baby, you smell your mom more and more. Of course, doctors advise mothers who have just had a baby to not utilize any chemicals like perfumes, obviously. But you wash your clothes. There's the smell of detergent. You meet up with other people who want to see the newborn baby. They are wearing perfume because they don't think to not wear perfume when they're coming to see the newborn, right? And the mother hugs that person. Then that perfume goes onto her. That then comes to you as a baby. So what I'm saying is, and then later on in life, when you're a little bit bigger and the mother is allowed and the father are both allowed again to wear fragrances, you are confronted with those perfumes mixed together with the fragrance of your mother and your father, their own hormonal smell and their own skin. But those perfumes that you encounter in these very early stages of life, trust you me, those are the perfumes and those are the genre of perfumes you will veer to later on in life. Now, obviously, we have to also add another factor to this, and that is depending on whether or not your parents were good parents or bad parents, if you had a good relationship to your family or not. For the people who are lucky enough to have had a wonderful, loving mother and father, of course, this video is definitely for you. If you are one of the unfortunate ones who has not had a good relationship with their mom and dad, then you might actually be extremely triggered by perfumes that smell like your parents used to smell or still smell. But then there's also psychologically another level where we do tend to sometimes repeat the mistakes of our family. So if the father was an alcoholic, chances are quite high, statistically speaking, allegedly, that the child, even though they suffered under an alcoholic father, that they also become alcoholic, right? Or addicts of sorts. It kind of is, it can run in the family. So in a way, you might also be attracted by what you are repelled by. So, in other words, if you did have family members, parents who were not caring of you, right? Who were neglecting you, and then you just didn't like that about them, and maybe you were wishing for their love and support, but It never came. So you always thought it was your fault. You weren't doing enough to deserve their love. There's that. But then there's also those kids whose mother and father are literally abusive. It goes on a whole other level of not just neglect, but like physical and verbal abuse, in which case you kind of outgrow that questioning yourself, what is it that you did wrong, and you enter that whole other sphere of detesting them, right? And just wanting to escape from them. Whatever that smell may be that was connected to them, even though it might repel you, you will get back or go back to that smell in the future. And believe it or not, you will be attracted to it in a very strange way. So, whether the relationship was a good one or a bad one with your family members, you, I believe, will be prone to like fragrances from your childhood that you've smelled on people around you from your childhood. So, ask yourself, what did your mother wear? Which perfume? Which perfume did your father wear? Now, certain fragrances bond better with our chemistry than others, but DNA doesn't fall far from the tree, honey. So, if you are a biological child of your mother and father, you carry their DNA in you. I mean, you are your own person, but you carry their genetic pool within you as well. So, chances are that certain smells, that certain ways, certain chemical bondings between fragrances and your skin chemistry might be quite similar to your mom and dad, or grandpa or grandma. So I know for a fact that in my case, um, fragrances I love the most were actually used by my family. Chanel number 5 by my mom, Opium by my mom, Giorgio Beverly Hills by my mom, Eternity Calvin Klein by my mom. My dad loved Poison by Christian Dior. He would always gift Poison to my mom. She hated it. For her, it was like a bug repellent, but I loved it, and because he loved it, and he loved to smell it, right? And he loved the bottle, and he loved the color, and he loved the smell of it, and he loved it on my mom. And there was some sort of chemical bonding between that perfume and my mom that attracted him. And that's kind of a form of attraction that I smell when I smell Poison on me. Um, Giorgio Beverly Hills always smells of my mom. It's her favorite perfume. And my first like memories as a kid is Opium and Chanel number 5. Yves Saint Laurent's Opium and Chanel's number 5. Uh, they were always on a shelf somewhere, visible. The bottles attracted me, the smell attracted me, and here I am, somewhat grown up, and those are my perfumes. I love also other perfumes, but I always go back to them. I always go back to that core, to that root. So what I'm saying here is I have learned the hard way, because I've also spent a ton of money, in the past buying perfumes and just randomly purchasing and kind of figuring out. Child, my hair is all a mess today. Apologies. Not. It is what it is. But you get to a point where you're like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I really like this. This is what my mom really liked, and it fits to me. So that's the olfactive family that I'm looking for. In my case, it would be certain spicy amber family accords like Opium, and then the white florals, even though Chanel number 5 is an abstract aldehydic fragrance that technically, if we're to follow what Ernest Beau said about his own perfume, it's a perfume that smells abstractly of snow, crisp, white, freshly fallen snow. But it is a white floral. It also has patchouli in it, though, and civet. Back in the day it did. Now it has some synthetic components that substitute it. But if you hear interviews today, even with Olivier Polge, still today, when he talks about Chanel perfumes, he's the head Chanel perfumer, and when they ask him, so what's the magic of Chanel number 5? You know, we can talk about the ylang ylang because Chanel number 5 also has ylang ylang, which I love. It's that buttery accord inside of Chanel number 5. He will, the May rose from Grasse, also incredible rose. He will always tell you, and you can go check on YouTube, he says it's all about the jasmine. The particular type of jasmine from Grasse, France, that makes the DNA of Chanel number 5 so special. That's a white floral. It's a white flower. So jasmine is a white floral accord in perfumery. So for me, I know no matter how much I veer towards experimenting with other smells, you know, and I've done more of that in the past. Now I know I'm more stable with myself. I'm more grown up. I'm somewhat wiser. So I'm not really experimenting as much as I used to with fragrances because I know me. I know what I love. So I veer towards perfumes that are white florals and ambers. That's my jam, and that always fits the best with me. Now, within that family of white florals and ambers, I have discovered the depth, just how deep I can dig into white florals. So, in fact, that's my tip to you. You find that genre that's connecting you to your family. My dad loved Allure Homme by Chanel, Tabac, and Gautier Le Mal. So, for example, so also Fougère and lavender is very much in my blood. But when I realized that the connection is a family connection, it's a family affair, I started digging deeper into that psychological and physiological connection and came to the conclusion, okay, white florals, ambers for the most part. Fougère is there as well, but, you know, Fougère / Chypre. But not as much as my white florals and amber. Like those are the loves of my life. And then I started digging into, for example, with white florals, I reached the height of white floral love when I started experimenting with tuberose. Tuberose being the ultimate white floral, in my opinion, and can be, you know, can kind of tick either way. It can be slightly subtle and gentle, but it can also be very indolic and camphorous. And it's a very volatile flower to deal with in perfumery because it can go either way. And it is way more conceptually abstract than a jasmine, in my opinion. Even though jasmine is so popular, almost every perfume out there has some jasmine in it, some type of jasmine. There's many different varieties of jasmine as well. But start digging in the direction where your roots are. Just like a plant, just like a tree. The tree sheds roots. Those roots, where are they? Where are they taking you to? How deep are those roots? All of the answers that we need are within those roots, your family roots. That's going to tell you a lot of things about yourself, including the perfume direction that is best for you. That way, you can avoid spending a ton of money trying also all the other genres that are not really maybe for you. And with the amber, I've noticed spiciness, clove, cinnamony clove, especially clove. Like the clove accord is very attractive to me. Okay, so within the Chanel family, another one that would be really, really good for me would be Coco. Coco has that, especially the Eau de Parfum and the Extrait. They have that extra dose of clove. In the 80s, it was a bomb. They've toned it down considerably throughout the years, but that clove delivers an amber accord that is so smooth and buttery soft, right? But then amber can also go in real amber directions, like Obsession by Calvin Klein. It's literally kind of a resinousy amber accord that's almost caramelized within the heart of the perfume, even though that perfume Obsession in that case starts off green and then ends up very ambery. So it's almost like a Chypre experiment that ends ambery, right? Very, very interesting. Within those ambery resinousy accords, I also classify personally labdanum Now, labdanum comes from the rock rose, right? I mean, it's a floral secretion, or from the actual plant. That in Crete they discovered that the goats were eating plants coming back home, and their little beards were kind of resinousy, and that resin smelled so good, and the people were asking themselves, where the heck did they get that resin from? Then they figured, oh, the goats were eating that particular plant, and the plant was fighting back by, if you kind of cut the leaf or the branch, it secretes that resin that was collecting on the goats' beards. And when enough of it collects, it has that browny, ambery color, and it smells divine. So labdanum, to me, is resinousy, very present in Pour Monsieur by Chanel or Le Lion de Chanel. Gorgeous concentrations of labdanum, the best labdanum I've ever smelled in a perfume that is not a soliflor or a soli smell, would be Le Lion de Chanel. I mean, that labdanum is on another level of amber goodness, in my opinion. So stick to what you know. And of course, I mean, if you have the budget and you just want to experiment with other things and you want to stray away from home, by all means, do it. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying if you want to be more conscious about it, about the spending and purchasing a perfume and enjoying it reasonably, sensibly, actually giving yourself the time to get to know the perfume, because obviously, if you keep buying new perfumes on the daily or on the weekly, you're not really going to have the time to spend with the perfume that you've just purchased a week ago. And I need months to get to know years to get to know a perfume. And so, and I take that time. I'm in no rush, because they kind of unfold like layers of onions. It's like you peel off a layer and there's something beautiful hiding underneath that surface. And then sooner or later, that other layer also peels off, and then there's something even deeper underneath that surface. I mean, look, I just, here's an example of Comet. Now, another gorgeous, well, what is this? This is, there's musks in here, heliotrope, not really a white floral accord, but it has iris, it's powdery. It is ambery, very dry amber, uh, you could say. Dry amber, it's a very, very floral accord, right? An aldehydic, but I mean 200 ml, and like we're using this baby up like there's no tomorrow. I love it to bits. It just makes me so happy. And so it's been months, many, many months since this perfume was released in 2024. As I'm making this video, it is still 2024. And this has been the highlight of my year. And it wasn't an easy, immediate understanding and bonding. It took time. It took time, more time, more time. And after over a month of using it on the daily, finally something clicked and I understood it, and the bond was there. And interestingly enough, it has the DNA of Chanel No. 5. Underneath all of that new evolution of Chanel fragrances, there's Chanel No. 5 in here. And once you realize, oh, there's Chanel No. 5 in here, and we're back to our roots. We're back to our mom. Very, very fascinating. And I also want to say one more thing. The fact that I personally feel that the perfume that will suit you the most is the one that's connected to your parents and your great parents, your grandparents and great grandparents. But not just that. It's not just on a physical, biological, genealogical DNA level, but I also believe on a character level, we are more drawn to perfumes that are somewhat connected to our family, because we are also a result of educational patterns and behavioral patterns, which are psychological, of our family. So the way that we behave, the way that we make choices, the way that we ultimately grow up and become our own individuals, it's very connected, intrinsically connected to our family, to our mother and father, grandparents, whoever raised you, whether your parents be biological or not. And you realize this and you notice this more and more the older you get, because you are more wise and you just start realizing many of your character traits are your mothers and fathers. You're like, oh my God, I'm being my dad now completely. Oh my God, I'm being like my mom now completely. And the choices we make, also aesthetical choices, are very much connected to our roots. And I know when you are in your teenager phase, in your rebellious phase, you want to leave home. You want to not have anything to do with your parents. They're super annoying. Oh my God, just like, no, I'm my own person. I'm different. You're struggling because you want to build your own identity. And that's fine. That's part of growing up. The same like when you want to discover a ton of new perfumes, and that's also fine. But we always go back to our roots. Sooner or later, I stray away, right, from my ambers and white florals often. And it's a fun excursion, but I always come back to those. Always. They're always home to me. So also I realized when you grow up a little bit more and you, you just feel it. You're like, I'm no longer upset that a lot of my character traits are looking like what my dad would say, how my dad would behave, or what my grandpa would say, or how he would behave, or how my grandma would behave, or my mom. You're at a certain point in your life, you're no longer upset about it, but you're actually comforted, and it's a soothing thing. You know, if you learn to let go, you embrace that. Actually, it's blissful. It makes you quite happy. It makes you feel rooted. And again, we're back to those roots, those deep roots. The deeper the roots, more solid the tree. And so I truly believe that the perfumes that our parents wear or wore are very, very, very strong binders in those roots, in those deep roots. And if we really analyze and find out what it is that our parents wore, perfume wise, we will know what our core is as well. Now, what is really interesting to me is how did my parents develop their sense of smell? Of course, from their parents, but how did their parents develop it? You know, before like certain perfumes even existed. Now, perfumery is a very, very antique art. Human beings have been using perfumes since the beginning of time. They were not as sophisticated as today. The perfumes might have been simple rubbing a lemon peel on your skin to feel the citrus vibe, or certain herbs have a certain smell. Sage, in particular, very, very ancient herb that fresh or dry has a particular smell that is also quite soothing if boiled and cooked and so on. You know what I'm saying? Like here, we have developed throughout the centuries, right? More and more, we have fine-tuned more and more our palates. And including in those palates is our sense of smell. So if you trust your heritage, you will save yourself a ton of money because you will know exactly which perfume fits you the most. And your family, whether consciously or subconsciously, they have also chosen according to their mother and father, and their mother and father according to their mother and father. And throughout the generations, subconsciously, I believe that the family understood what is best for it chemically, you know, on a molecular level. It's something you feel it's right. And so when it's right, you know. It's just something that bit by bit, evolution, in other words, very Darwinian, if you may. You know, the evolution of wearing a perfume by a certain family, wearing a certain olfactive family by a human family, very, 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 very profound. And it's not spoken about enough, I believe. And so I think we should raise awareness about that, because once you're aware of this, and you choose according to these criteria, not just the criteria mentioned in this video, but if you follow back the footsteps to my prior videos on this particular topic of how to buy perfumes, how to consume perfumes more sensibly, you will realize as we're collecting all of these breadcrumbs left behind our ancestors and all the knowledge that they left us behind, and if we learn how to see that information all over the place in this beautifully bizarre and wild forests that we are inhabiting and trying to find our way through it, once you realize, oh, hold on, let me connect the dots, let me collect the breadcrumbs, you're on your way to greatness, happiness, a sort of nirvana, if you may. Whether it be spiritual or just olfactive, physical, doesn't matter, Very important. Never forget where you're coming from. Never forget your roots. Your roots will guide you. They will show you the way. And they will also let you know which perfumes are best for you. Not some cockamamie advertisement on television, on social media, in magazines, whether they be print form or digital, telling you this is the brand new perfume you want. No, they don't know you. They have no clue who you are. They just want to manipulate you. Those advertisements want to manipulate you into believing that what they're trying to sell you is a product that you want first and then later on need. And the difference between want and need is explained in my How to Combat FOMO when it comes to perfume buying. So go check out that video. So there you have it, guys. The true advertisement that you should pay attention to is your family, nothing else. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below. And if you want me to make more of these videos in this direction of how to consume perfumes, how to buy perfumes, how to get to know perfumes. Thank you guys so much. Thumb up the video and subscribe. And until next time, never forget to never give up on fragrant love. Bye.